Hey, it's Blastzone Mike. I'm finally got with Nathan Forrest Winters here, and we're gonna go with this and start talking about what the show's about tonight. And just for y'all know, we are under bad storms right here where I live, and if it goes black, that means that we just lost electric or something. But if we do, Nathan and me will get back together to finish or continue or whatever happens, okay? How's it going, Nathan?
Going pretty good.
I just want to tell you I appreciate you doing this, and I hope after all said and done that we can maybe help some other people out that might have gone through what you went through.
Yeah, me as well. Yeah, I completely agree. That's the main goal for any of this really is to educate and hopefully prevent anyone else from having to go through it. Sorry, it's my goddaughter.
Oh, okay. If you can, hi. If you can, go ahead and put it on your wall. That way, people that know you can get to it easier, okay?
Okay.
Because if you just go to my page, you'll be able to see where I'm live, and then you just share it. You stay safe too, Nathan.
Okay, so you want me to post this online right now?
Yeah, just go ahead and share the video. Can you see us live there? You just push share, and it'll go on your wall. That way, people that are your friends can go and watch it.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Screen in red. Yeah, we just gotta watch for a watch or warning. It's a warning. That's what they said.
So let's see. Give me a second here.
No problem. Take your time, man. We're all good.
It was just got a watch on my phone, but Mom just said it was ended up being a warning for Morning County. The really going tornadoes. No, the watch is just
Frankie said it's just a watch. He said there wasn't a warning yet.
Oh, there's not a
No,
warning.
he said it's a watch.
There's
Frankie
a watch
just
right
said.
now. The warning is the worst one is actually when there's, they actually seen a funnel cloud or something.
Did you find this on there?
They do the warnings.
Yeah, I got it.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll get started then.
Just said it was a warning. Watch right now.
Okay.
We're about
We're about to get light show. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Alright, yeah, just come on up, baby.
My wife was just telling my daughter to come up to the house where it was safer here than her trailer. So,
I see.
yeah. So, anyway, we'll get started with this and we'll see how far we can get and everything.
Okay.
Go ahead and introduce yourself to everybody real quick.
Nathan Forrest Winters, former child actor in Clown House and in the basement.
And let's get into how did this all start? How did this all start when you were 6?
When I was 6, a girlfriend of my mother's daughter went to this daycare center, and that's where Victor worked. He was working on a production, a self-produced film called Golf World at the time, and needed somebody to make props for him. And my mom was extremely talented with her hands and crafty, and so her girlfriend recommended her, and that's how we were introduced to Victor.
Oh, I see. And how did it end up being? How did you end up getting tied in with Victor? I mean, how did that all work?
It started slowly. Basically, my mom started helping him out making props for the movie. So he'd come to the house and look at them or pick them up or whatever. And he was always real friendly with me and my younger brother. And, he spent the better part of a year grooming me and my parents, developing the trust to where he could take me for the weekend, or he could come and offer, oh, you guys are having a rough time, let me watch Nathan for you, kind of thing. And so, I mean, it was very calculated and a long process, as is with most pedophiles.
Now, explain to people what grooming is.
Grooming is just that it's developing a relationship with the family, because parents aren't just going to let their kid go off with some guy that they just met and stay the night or be babysat or any of those things without some sort of trust developed. And children aren't going to allow this grown adult to touch them in that sort of way, without love and trust. Mm-hmm. Which is really is one of the most damaging things to the children, is the fact that it is their love and their trust for this person that is used against them eventually. So grooming is developing a relationship, preparing them for the acts that they're going to do. Because once they have the trust and the love of the child, they can pretty much go to do anything, keep the secret for, it's not like he threatened to kill my parents or something if I ever told. It wasn't like that. It was more like, if your parents find out or you tell your parents, we're not going to be able to, I won't be able to see you anymore, mm-hmm. kind of thing. And coming from an abusive family, my stepdad was abusive and I didn't have a relationship with him, which made me a very a textbook target in a lot of ways. And so I didn't want to lose. Victor made me feel special. I loved him. And I didn't know what was wrong. As a child, I had no idea that was wrong. And so that's grooming is essentially it's preparing the child for the parents, so they can get in.
We have a comment here. William J. Benzani said, "God bless you for talking about this. May God lift you up and praise His name." He also said, "Hollywood is full of these evildoers."
Yes, sir. Thank you for your support.
Again, I'm talking to Nathan Forrest Winters, and we're talking about his trauma that he was dealt at the hands of Victor Salva, who went on to do Powder, Jeepers Creepers 1 and 2, and now Jeepers Creepers 3. So, if anybody has any questions, comments, put them in the thing, and I'll get to them as soon as I can. So you're 6 at this time, right?
Yes.
And did it just not come up with your mom? I know you said your dad was your stepdad.
Well, there's really no sign of it at that point. They just thought he was.
No, I mean
he was right up front with them about being homosexual. He told them that right away, and my mom's very trusting. She's just one of those people that sees the good in everyone. Mm-hmm. And my dad wasn't around very much. He owned his own business and was going to work, 80 hours a week. And so he wasn't really around very much.
But what I mean, I understand that, but what I mean is, did your parents not really teach you wrong from right when it comes to how adults are supposed to act with children?
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure to some degree that conversation was broached, but it wasn't something that didn't really start until later. Honestly, it was because I remember the time when that it was like a big thing where all of a sudden they're teaching kids, touching is wrong and to talk about it. And it was similar right around the time of fair. I remember where they were having these at least at schools, teaching kids about drug use and teaching them about inappropriate touching and things like that. It was more after the abuse had started.
I see. Okay.
I was born in '75, and it wasn't a huge topic at that time. Honestly, it's just become. There's more awareness now in the last 20 years than there has been in the last 60. So
you're 6 years old. your mom's allowed this man to take you and do things with you. I'm not talking about sexually. I'm not talking about sexually.
No, he would say, "Oh, let me take Nathan. We'll go to the park, or I'll go take him to go see a movie." He always took me to go see movies. And my parents would be like, "Okay, yeah, we need a break, sure." And so he was like a trusted friend at that point.
So, you were looking for somebody who could replace the father that you really didn't have in your life at the time.
Right. Just a positive older male role model, yeah. Somebody that was, a father figure and made me feel special, And Victor was definitely that.
So, how did the abuse start?
It was gradual. It was like, a lot of comments. He'd take me to go see a movie. There'd be like sexual innuendos in the movie, and he would explain them to me and ask me how that felt. And I remember the first night that he actually physically touched me was we were watching Jungle Book, the Disney cartoon, and he had two bandanas, and he said that he would make me a loincloth, just like the one that Mowgli was wearing.
Mm-hmm.
And so he had me get dressed and tied these two bandanas together around my waist and underneath my crotch, and that was the first night that became physical.
I see. And that night, so that first night, was it a whole lot, or was it just a little bit?
No. Yeah, it was just I think they know where their lines are drawn. I mean, they're masters at it. It's something that it's like any other skill someone might hone, and basically he knew where my limits would be,
mm-hmm.
and how uncomfortable he was making me, and then so he would back off and reassure me in other ways, or a lot of times it would be distraction. Like if he could tell that I was uncomfortable and he was going too far, he would focus my attention in another direction, take my mind off of what he was doing.
We have some more comments. Again, I'm talking to Nathan Forrest Winters, who was sexually molested by Victor Salva at the age of 6. Victor went on to be famous for doing Powder and Jeepers Creepers 1 and 2, and now Jeepers Creepers 3. Couple questions here. William J. Benzanoy says, do you forgive him for what he's done?
I do.
Okay.
I won't forget. I won't. I made a promise to Victor when I was 12 years old and he was just arrested, or he had just been convicted. And I wrote a letter to him. And in that letter, and I didn't know about this until years later, probably 8-9 years later, I was looking through some of the paperwork that I just gotten from my lawyer, and there was this letter in there that I wrote him when I was 12 that said that I did forgive him, and that if ever in a time where he was trying to do this again to another child, that I would be there to stop him every time. And I will continue to do that. I will continue to do everything I can to prevent him from having any more victims.
William asked, have you ever watched any of his movies?
No.
Okay, and then Tony. So we're at the point where the first incident happens. How did it progress from there?
Honestly, I'm not 100% sure. I have like the traumatic memory loss, like where there's lapses, there's pieces that I don't have at all, like they're just gone.
Mm-hmm.
But it became, by the time we were filming Clown, it had become one of those things where he was very, I don't want to say open about it, but like one of the reasons that my mom had started pressing so hard about this was because she had had people from the crew on the set coming up to her and saying, "What's the deal with Nathan and Victor? Like they have, like that's not normal. For every time Victor yells cut, Nathan runs up and jumps and sits on his lap. That's not normal, And so he was pretty open about it, for lack of better terms. At that point, he'd become very comfortable, where he treated me more like, if I was on set and I was off doing something else or talking to girls or something, like he would act like a jealous lover, and that's what really triggered people into like thinking that something was not right. So as far as the progression goes, I'm not really sure exactly when or how fast it went.
Yeah.
By the time I told my mother the truth, like I said, it had progressed where Victor was really comfortable with it and was fairly open about being affectionate physically with me in public.
Do you think that he's done this before to other kids before you?
I know he has. I know of at least probably, at the very least, a half a dozen, probably more like 9, 10 kids that he was babysitting within the 6-year period that I had a relationship with him.
Was he always boys?
Always.
And
did any of those come forward?
Did any of those come forward?
No. The co-star of Farmhouse, who was also the co-star in Something in the Basement, Brian McHugh, there was evidence recovered, like pictures of him getting undressed for the shower. There's a couple of videotapes of him taking showers. So there was evidence that suggested him being abused as well, but his parents refused to come forward or allow him to.
Frankie Spencer said, awareness is what is so important. Awareness for our children to know that this kind of stuff is not supposed to happen. It's supposed to happen. Props to you, bro. True courage.
Thank you.
I work in the field.
Oh, I don't
and
know.
That's absolutely right. Awareness is the big one. Education is the other one. Education is prevention. The more that we educate ourselves, because there's telltale signs of a predator.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not like you can go out and start accusing people of being a pedophile, but there are things to watch for, and there's things to watch for in your children to see if that should tell you fairly early on. And the more that you know about the signs, and the more that you know about how they operate, the easier it will be to prevent from happening. And the other thing that really is crucial and essential is the laws. Children don't have rights. Children don't vote. They can't be drafted. They don't pay taxes. Mm-hmm. So they have zero rights in the court system. And that's really what is keeping these predators on the streets. Victor was convicted. He was arrested on 11 counts of child molestation. He was convicted of 4 due to a plea bargain, shadily signed by my lawyer and his lawyer team. Was convicted of the 4 these severe charges, sentenced 3 years from crime that took him 6 years to commit, and served 18 months in a treatment center in Napa Valley, California. He literally had a movie deal waiting for him and got out of treatment 18 months later. But I don't see how that's justice or that's protecting children by, giving this man a 3-year sentence and he goes and does a 1.5 years in a treatment center. Yeah. Like, how's that? That just doesn't add up to me. You know what I'm saying? And if the laws were stronger against these crimes and children had more rights, then these people would not be back on the streets. They're just pushing them into treatment and right back out to the street.
Yeah.
And that's not productive in the prevention of this at all.
Frankie also, I didn't get to read it all because it wasn't on my thing there. He said, I work in the field of many victims, survivors. So many men will not talk about this trauma in their life. It's why addiction and other mental health issues become so common. Then he said, right on, because of what you were talking about. And he said, it's California. That wouldn't happen in Kentucky.
Oh, the conviction?
Yeah.
The sentence?
Yeah.
Yeah, I believe, I mean, he basically, he was protected by Hollywood from day one. I mean, as soon as he was arrested, Coppola's money went and got him, the best lawyers that his money could buy.
So explain to everybody that might not understand. You said that you love this man. How is it that you come to that conclusion that you love this man? How'd that come about for you?
As an adult or as a child?
No, when you decided that you actually love him, how did you?
Well, it wasn't like it was a decision. It's like, you spend time with someone and they treat you good and you're used to being treated like shit. It was really easy for me to love him.
Mm-hmm.
To look up to him. Here he is, this young, he was like in his late 20s, I think. Mid to late 20s, and he writes movies, writes scripts, he makes movies. I'd always wanted to be an actor ever since I was a little boy.
Mm-hmm.
Like when I was 5, if you'd ask me what I wanted to be when I grew up, I would tell you I wanted to be a dad and famous. And so, here he comes along and he makes movies. And I just thought that was the coolest thing in the world. And, he would like take me to go to like the local record store and let me pick out, records, or he would take me to an amusement park, or he would take me to go see the newest movies,
Mm-hmm.
He spoiled me, he treated me good, and I was not used to that. My stepdad was not very nice to me at all, in fact. And coming from that, it was like a hole that I had that he came in and filled, right?
Yeah.
A missing part of my life that he came and filled those shoes. And so it was very easy for me to love him, as a child. He treated me good.
Frankie said he was a predator and used his influence and power on the defenseless, sick person.
Absolutely, but that's really that's the MO for pedophiles, is to use the love and trust of a child. That's why it's so much different than, like, say, a rapist, where a rapist just comes and violently violates this person, right?
Mm-hmm.
It just leaves them, usually, as to where a pedophile is very calculated, and they will take as much time as they need to get the trust of that child before they start abusing that child. Because they can't continue to abuse that child if the child's just going to freak out and go tell his parents right away, or her parents right away. You know what I'm saying? So they wait until they know for a fact that child trusts them above and beyond. Because once they have that trust and love from a child, they can do whatever they want, for as long as they want.
Did you? So now, was this? Did this go on every day, or was this like sporadic? Did it happen?
It's not like I saw him every day, no. But I spend a lot of weekends in his house, and I spent a lot of time with him.
Mm-hmm.
It's just one of those things that, as much time as my parents would allow. And, being, a lower income family with a dad that's gone to work all the time, and mom's at home with the 2 boys all day, and my brother and I we didn't get along very well. So, they were happy to get a break, and only have the 1 kid or something, and I understand that. It made it very easy to fix it. So it didn't happen every time you were with him then? At some point, yes. At some point, it was yeah. Every time, yes. I wouldn't say it was within the first 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't say it was within the first 2 years, but I would definitely say the last 3-4 years, it was, yeah.
And you got to the point where you actually liked this then, because he made you feel that you were loved and cared for? So
Well, no, not necessarily that. I mean, here's the thing. This is also what creates such a guilt within the children, right? Because it does feel good.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter what age you are. You know what I mean? If you have children, you know that your children, when they're young, they're infants, they're changing their diaper or something, you know, like, they play with themselves.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's just, it's not as if, you know, it felt bad physically. You know, I mean, not to confuse it, but obviously that kind of physical contact feels good.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what age you're at, you know. So it wasn't something that I liked necessarily because I didn't. And I started to, like, kind of pick up on the fact that, you know, he was, like, really wanting that all the time, you know, and that kind of, that I didn't like either. Because I didn't like the way that he behaved when he wanted it, you know? It's like he all of a sudden it was like his personality would change. It was no more like I guess I could pick up. I was picking up on the fact that he was sick and that he was abusing me. I just didn't know that the level of abuse. I didn't necessarily have a name for it, you know. But I knew something wasn't right.
So it's kind of like any other kid who their parent abuses them by verbally abusing them or by beating them or whatever it is. When somebody else comes in the picture and they're nice, then they cling to them and they try to say, you know, they want to be part of that person's life because their other life sucks so bad that that's how a pedophile lures somebody in, is because they're just, you know, and you know, and this has happened before with you know, the big one was, I guess last year, was Jarrett from Subway. You know, he was really a heinous individual, you know.
No, I didn't know that. I haven't heard about it.
Oh, you hadn't heard about that one?
No, I personally, honestly, I don't really watch TV or listen to the radio or anything at all.
Well, he went to prison for sexually molesting kids up, I mean, even to the age of like 2 and 3 years old.
Wow.
Yeah, and it was big, you know. I mean, they come in, they took his computers, they took everything. You know, Subway was like, no, he couldn't have done this, and then Subway flipped and said, we don't have nothing to do with him. Y'all do what you gotta do, you know, because they weren't gonna be no part of it, you know. But he would go and he would go to schools and talk about, you know, losing weight, and while he was there, he's picking out kids that he could take back to his hotel room. And
Victor, every job Victor had was involved with children. Like I said, my mother met him at a daycare center, right? And he worked at like the YMCA and the boys club kind of thing. Like every job he had was involved in children, where he had access to children.
It's unreal. So, since you were a child, does your parents have any accountability for this at all?
You know, I mean, you could speculate that fact, but in my opinion, just my opinion and my experience, I don't hold them accountable. I don't feel like that, like this happened and it was their fault. Now, I mean, could they have been more aware? Could they have, you know, maybe seen the signs earlier? Yeah, probably. You know, had their education on this been more, you know, if they had better education on this or knew more about it, they would have seen the signs in me earlier. You know, which is why I say education is prevention, because the more that you know about it, what to look for, the earlier on you can see this happen, you know, and hopefully prevent it altogether. I mean, if I had things my way, I would make it like a curriculum early on in school where they would have to learn about it, you know, early on in school, and that parents would go to classes to learn about it as well.
Yeah, I understand.
Because, I mean, when you look at the statistics, it's staggering. The statistics now are, I believe, 3 out of every 5 boys has been sexually abused. And those are only the ones that, that come forward.
Wow. And So we'll kind of fast forward a little bit. We understand all about. I'm not going to get into details of what happened and all that. I mean, we don't need to do that. But
No.
so you turn 12, right? Or am I right?
So we filmed something in the basement, which was like a big deal because he was auditioning young boys for the lead role. And I kept telling him that I wanted to audition, and he was like against it. He's like, I don't want to hurt your feelings if you're no good. Like I don't want to, basically he didn't want to mess up what he had.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't want me to get all butthurt or, get all upset and have my feelings hurt. And so he kept denying me. And finally I talked him into it, and he let me audition. And he said it was great. Out of, the 20 boys that he had auditioned at that point, I was the best one. So he gave me the part. That was, I believe, when I was like 9 or 10, I think, is when when we filmed something big. And then, so that short film, I think it was 28 minutes, was entered into the Sony Film Festival in San Francisco, where Francis Ford Coppola was on the panel of judges, and it won first place for the suspense or science fiction category. And so Coppola saw this, he won first place, and that's where he got the funding for Clown House, which the script was written for me in the starring role with Brian McHugh as Jeffrey, the middle brother, and fully produced by Coppola's company, Dotro, at that point.
Mm-hmm.
And so we filmed that a month before my 12th birthday. So Victor was arrested and convicted after I turned 12, but filming Clown House was a month before my birthday.
So the movie was completed.
Everything but the dubbing. Because the cameras that we were using were, 15, 20 years old at that point. And this is like, 88 or 89 or something. And so they were extremely loud. Like, really, really loud. And so all the audio that was filmed, recorded during the filming was shot. So everything had to be overdubbed. We had just wrapped the shooting of it, and we're about a week away from doing all the audio overdubs when he was arrested.
So, what in that time period, when the movie was being done, what in that time period made you go and say something to somebody?
Well, what it was, like I said, is his interaction with me, his public displays of affection, acting like a jealous lover when I wasn't right there at beck and call on the set, triggered, like other people in the crew, like the crew of the set. A lot of them had children and were like, what the hell is going on? This is not normal. The way that Victor interacts with Nathan is just not okay.
I understand all that. I don't mean that. I mean, how did it come up that
my
Victor
mom just started pushing on me, pressing, asking me every single day if Victor was touching me or if he had ever touched me.
Uh-huh.
And finally, I just broke. I was broken. I told her yes. I withheld a lot of information at that point. I was just, I was just trying to get her off of my back, really. So I gave her a little bit of, I told her yes, he did, and so she went to the police right away. Victor was arrested the next day. And when they caught him, he was completely unaware. So I mean, they got all the evidence. It was ridiculous what he had.
And at that point, you didn't want to get him in trouble, right?
No, I didn't, because there went my movie career. There went the only man in my life at that point that acted like he loved me.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't want to lose that. He was making me a movie star, and he made me feel like, like special. He made me feel like I was important.
I see. Frankie says, was a victim, but you became a survivor. April is Child Abuse Awareness Month. Thank you for your courage and hope it helps others too. I can't read the rest of it, but pretty much he's saying that he appreciates your courage to do this tonight.
Thank you.
And stuff, and hopefully it'll help somebody.
I would hope that anything taken from anything I have to say is total encouragement that as a victim of abuse, you have nothing to be ashamed of. I stand here with my head high, and I have no problem speaking about it because I have learned through therapy and through the years that it doesn't matter if it felt good. It doesn't matter if I liked it. None of that matters. The fact of the matter is I was manipulated by a grown adult as a child.
Yeah.
And there is no shame in that at all. And the more that we realize that, the easier it will be to discuss. And the more that we discuss it, the more awareness there will be. The more awareness, the more people will be educated and have better knowledge of it. And that all just leads to less abused children. So that's really, that's my point here.
So, you went to court. When he was arrested, you went to court. Now, did you have to be a witness?
I did not have to testify. They did everything they could to prevent me from having to testify.
Okay, and when they arrested him, they found child pornography. They found
books and books and books full of pictures and newspaper clippings of boys in their underwear, videotape, stacks of videotape.
And there was actually videotapes of you, right? Was there videotapes of you, or was there not?
There's a lot. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And did you did, well, it doesn't matter, but did you know he was videotaping you?
At some points, yeah.
A
lot of times, no, though.
Oh, wow, okay. And, if that stuff would have got out, I mean, that could have been so damaging to you as you were becoming an adult, too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the police got everything, so.
Thank God it wasn't the time of the internet, you know what I mean?
Exactly, yeah.
Because,
right.
That stuff would be easier to trade than, just making a video and taking it and putting it in a post office box,
Later, during the trial, they analyzed something in the basement as well as comments, by a professional psychologist. And I believe in a 20-minute long short something in the basement, it was like staggering. I can't remember the numbers exactly right now because it's been a long time, but it was staggering how many hidden and obvious, as well as obvious, innuendos and sexual references, or it's staggering. And I watch TV or movies, and it's like it's just gotten out of control when it comes to what we're allowing the children to watch.
Yeah.
You go watch a movie that's meant for children, and it's like all the jokes with adults. And how is that okay? Because that stuff sticks with you. There's things that would be in a movie, like, for instance, you took me to go see the Goonies in the theater, right?
Mm-hmm.
And every single time there was something that was sexual, he would point it out. Like when they find a dead body in the freezer, right? You've seen the Goonies, right?
Yeah, a million times.
Okay, so like when they find a dead body in the freezer, right, with all the ice cream?
Yeah.
And they're like, it's a stiff, and like one-eyed Willie, and like all these things. And Victor's like, oh yeah, one-eyed Willie, that's your penis. And it's a stiff is when your penis gets hard. And like, so there was so much of that in the Clown House. The opening scene is me peeing in my bed and getting out of bed and taking off my underwear, and then the next scene is the middle brother, Jeffrey, walking in on the oldest brother masturbating. Then goes in to find my peed in clothes on the floor, and then I get out of bed and bare ass, throw on my underwear, while Sam Rockwell, comes in his underwear and a shirt, talking about, you ever walk in on me like that, I'm going to kill you. That's like the first 5 minutes of the film, and already you've got a bare-ass 12-year-old and an older kid masturbating and then walking in his underwear 2 minutes later.
And that movie never seen the light of day, right?
It was never released in theaters, but it was sold to like all the premium channels. So yeah, it was never released.
But it's out there, is what you're saying.
Oh, it's out there, yeah. You can go to YouTube and watch it. It's, like I said, it was sold to like Showtime and HBO, so it was, it played on those channels a lot.
Does that?
There's a lot. It's kind of like an underground, like old classic almost to a degree.
So
I mean, I'm blown away at how many people, message me and want to know about that movie and how they love that movie and all that. So, kind of interesting.
does that movie haunt you?
No.
Did it at one time haunt you?
No, I don't. There was so much involved in the 6-year period. Very small part of it.
Mm-hmm.
That was like a 2-month period, or 6 years.
I see. Okay. So let's get back to the court thing. So he goes to court. He's convicted on 4 counts. You said, right?
That was just arrested on 11, convicted of 4.
Convicted of 4. He gets
Severe ones, yes.
He gets convicted, and he's supposed to go to prison, but he goes to a place to help him where he isn't a pedophile anymore.
Right. He went to a treatment center in Napa Valley.
And who in the hell thinks there can be a treatment center for a pedophile?
You'd be surprised. I mean, the amount of people out there that believe that, he served his debt and that he was rehabilitated. And my response to that has always been that this is not the sickness, but it's also a preference. Victor's gay, right? He's a homosexual, but his preference is young boys.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't, he will be with an adult man to keep like a gay man in the closet will have a wife, right? To keep the window dressing.
Yeah.
Right? So he will date men, but his preference is boys. So you're saying that he can go to a treatment center for 1.5 years, 18 months, and then come out and not be a pedophile anymore is like saying that you can take me, a heterosexual man, put me in a treatment center for 18 months, and I'll come out gay.
Yeah.
Right? That's what you're saying, which is it's preposterous. It's completely preposterous.
Angel, I'm talking to Nathan Forrest Winters. At the age of 6, he was molested by Victor Salva, who went on to be famous for doing Powder, Jeepers Creepers 1 and 2, and now Jeepers Creepers 3, which will be out in theaters or to video later this year or next year. So that's who I'm talking to. And so people that you've talked to, have they actually blamed you? Have they said that you were the fault of this?
Some have, yeah.
What's the rationalization of that?
I can't tell you. I can't wrap my head around it. Because that to me is like completely unfathomable how anyone could say that to a victim of abuse like that. That at 6, 7 years old I was dressing provocatively. I mean, really? I mean, what's their basis for that? I don't know.
But that goes without saying. With say you got a 16-year-old girl and she wears short shorts and she's braless and she's got big old hooters, and so some people in their mind would say, well, she deserved what she got, which is stupid too, but there's that mentality that goes on now. You know what I mean?
Oh, I do. And when Powder, the whole thing with Powder happened because the reason that story blew up the way that it did was because the company that funded it, produced it, was a subsidiary of the Disney company. So here we have the biggest corporation in the world, almost, but most definitely the biggest corporation built around children,
mm-hmm.
giving a convicted pedophile $10 million to make a movie whose target audience was boys 12 to 17. Okay, that was Powder's target audience. I mean, doesn't the movie take place at like an all-boys school or something, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, it just blew up. And I would say the percentage of it was about 60-40, maybe 65-35 of people for me, and like 35 to 40% of people that were supportive of Victor and saying that I was only doing it for money, or I wanted to be famous, or I was jealous, or whatever they had, rationalized in their own mind why I'm out here trying to destroy this man's career.
Well,
And I never once had to try to stop him from working.
Yeah.
All I've ever done is try to prevent him having access to children.
What?
Period.
That just fucks with my head, because it's like, okay, so, you got 65 and 35%, okay, and 65 agree with you, but 35 don't. What if it was their fucking kid?
Well,
what if it was their?
Right. You think he's so rehabilitated? You think he's so safe now? Are you going to let him get your kids over the weekend?
Yeah.
Are you going to let your 7, 8-year-old son go stay at his house for the weekend then, because he's rehabilitated?
Yeah.
Exactly. That right there, that statement alone would shut most people down, because you can't. How are you going to answer that?
It just.
And whether they still agreed with me or not, they were done with the conversation at that point.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and so when Powder came out, is that when you first went and protested the movie?
Right. Yeah. See, again, like I said, I've never tried to stop him from working. Okay, it's just I've always come here to prevent him from having access to children. And so here's what happened. I'm at work. I'm 20 years old. I'm at work, and my auntie gives me a call, and she says, "Nathan, I was just watching TV, saw this movie trailer, looked really good. So at the end, I watched, to see who the writer and director was, and I'm sorry to tell you, it was Victor." And I'm like, okay. I get off the phone, I'm like working, and I'm like, over the course of an hour, I'm like chewing on this, like thinking about it, and like, what am I supposed to do here? What should I do? And so finally, within an hour, I had concluded that I decided I was going to go to like maybe the local newspaper, or Fox News, Channel 2 News, for the Bay Area, it's Channel 2, mm-hmm. Fox News, and see if they wanted to do a small story on this, and to try to prevent him to having access, because at that point, it was produced by Disney, and if you read about what happened on the set of Powder, like, he was always constantly having his meals with the children on the set of Powder. Mm-hmm. There was a lot involved with him being around, because like the crew would be bringing their kids to work, and he was all for it, so, and at that point I didn't know that yet, but in my mind, like, I made the decision that I was going to try to seek out some sort of media and remind everyone what this man is. And as soon as I made my decision, I'm not even kidding, as soon as I made my decision, in 5 minutes, I got a call, and this one, some guy in New York from the Associated Press. And so, from that moment on, it just blew up. I was doing, interviews with people all over the world, flying to Hollywood to go, to do the premiere boycott, flying to New York to be on the panel of a TV show, radio spots, and it was insane. And within that whole period of time, I'm going all over the country, and I'm just constantly, like, nonstop. 4 o'clock in the morning until we unplug our phone at night, it was just off the hook all day long. And people offering me money for book deals, people offering me TV movies. I mean, I was offered tons of money, and I accepted not one cent, not a single cent did I accept. In fact, that cost me, my family, a lot of money. They would pay for airfare, but to fly to New York, to fly to Hollywood, all this, constantly like that cost money to live, and so it cost us a lot of money. It was hurting my family, because my brother was getting harassed, and there's a lot involved, and I did not accept anything, because that would have proven anyone and everyone that I was doing it for the wrong reasons. Mm-hmm. And so it was very important that I stopped it on my own. I stopped accepting calls. I stopped doing interviews. I just stopped it dead, because it was too much. It was too much stress on my family, and at the time, I felt like I had done my job, and I was worn out from it. You know, it was a lot. But I know that at that point, that's what started it. Like, prior to that, no man in history had ever come forward on his own and called out his victimizer and you know, basically shouted to the world like what this man did to me. This is what he is, and you know, I'm going to stand here with my head high and you know, be a survivor. And I was the first one to do that. And since then, you know, the numbers are you know, the numbers are great. Many men and boys have come forward since that 20 years ago.
And
that's something I'm very proud of.
And with your own, let me see how I want to put this. In your at between the age of when this had, you know, 12 and 20, those are, you know, that's the age where you start developing and figuring out who you are and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
At any point, did you think to yourself that you could be gay yourself because of all this?
It was something I struggled with until I was in my early 20s.
What?
You know, it was something that was always because the thing is when he was arrested, our local newspaper, the Contra Costa Times, in an article about this long, they printed my name 7 times, printed my stepdad's name, as well as my mother, which is completely illegal. Okay, and no one would take the lawsuit. No one would take our case because nobody wanted to go up against Hollywood money. Was a thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was harassed from 7th grade, because this happened the summer between 6th and 7th grade is when he was arrested.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, here we are 3 months after his arrest. I go start 7th grade, and it was horrible. I was harassed. I had to move. In that 2-year period, I went to 5 different schools, 5 different middle schools, because of being harassed.
Wow.
And, I mean, I was suicidal. I was very promiscuous. I started, you know, drug use started at that age. At 12, I was doing drugs. And, you know, looking for escapes and ways to numb my pain. And you know, I mean, it's a horrible thing. And that's one of the worst ages for a young boy to have to go through something like that. And then to have it made completely public like it was.
Yeah.
You know, was also very damaging to my family and to myself.
So what made you? How did you decide that you weren't gay? I mean, can you kind of explain that? Because, you know, the theory is that when somebody's raped or molested by a man, then the boy, you know, becomes gay. And it's the same way with a girl. If a girl is molested by a man or raped, she becomes gay. You know, I mean, that's the theory. You know,
I think that's probably a common misconception. I don't think that's the case. I think that there's incidences where that happens. You know, but you know, in my experience, you're born the way that you're born. It's not something that, you know. I mean, there's people that are confused and they, you know, are curious or whatever. But like, I know I was born loving women.
Mm-hmm.
I've always loved them, you know, always. And it was something that to kiss another boy. Never had that cross my mind. You know, so all the insecurity and all the doubt was generated because of what Victor had done, not because of feelings that I had towards any other boys, right? And so I started to realize that really what it was for me is I realized that prior to him, I never had any thoughts about another man, yet I thought about girls all the time. And afterwards, I never had any desire to be with a man. It's always been about, you know, girls. And so it was like shedding that skin or letting go of that trauma.
Mm-hmm.
That, you know, that made me start to realize that this was not something that had ever been an issue before or after. So anything that I'm worried about is more a projection of what I'm experiencing from other people. You know, because I'd go to school and I'd be called a faggot or a dick sucker or that I had AIDS or all this, you know, all these horrible things. It's, you know, kids can be really cruel. And they spared nothing with me. You know, they were really, I was pretty mistreated in school. at that time. And called every name you could of and accused. And so carrying all this around at 12, 13, 14, 15 years old. And, and at 14, I was actually raped by one of my best friends and unaware that was a memory that I had blocked until just maybe 8 or 9 years ago.
Oh, wow.
The memory came back, and I realized that my best friend when I was 15 was raping me in my sleep, and I didn't know it. So it's like once you're a victim like that, it's like they can smell you or they see it that you're a victim, and they still. And I was preyed on, and so what it became was when I realized that I had no homosexual tendencies, and I decided that I was not going to be a victim anymore. And I can't tell you exactly when that happened, but I started to figure it out in my early 20s. I knew by the time I was 22 that I was absolutely not. I had no homosexual tendencies whatsoever. And I was able to let go of all of that doubt and insecurity from Victor's abuse.
And those kids that called you names, they had to have heard that from their parents.
Probably, yep.
Because we didn't have the internet then, did we?
No.
So it had to be their parents who.
Yeah, but it was a pretty big story because it was a local filmmaker, and all this, because Francis Ford Coppola was involved, one that gave Victor the $1 million to make Farmhouse. So big Hollywood name, big Hollywood money was involved. So it was a big story.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, our local paper, an article this long, printed my name 7 times.
Wow.
So they were not taking a chance on somebody not reading my name the first time, obviously.
Of course. And so you go on with life. You said you're 21. You go on with life. Powder becomes a big success for Victor, of course, and you go on with life. And how does your life progress from there? Do you get married? Do you have kids?
Yeah. I didn't get married until I was 28.
28, okay.
And it was a woman that I had known since I had met her on my 17th birthday. Oh. And she was married and had 2 daughters. And then they divorced. I didn't speak with her for like 8 years. And then my parents were on vacation in California and ran into her at the pharmacy or something. And so she asked about me. And I was like, at that point, I think this was like July or August, and I had made plans to move back to California in October. And so I moved back to California, and we met up at the school where her 2 daughters went to the same school as my niece. Mm-hmm. So I dropped my niece off so I could meet up with her, and then from there we went and had coffee, and from then on that was it. It was like no time had elapsed. All my love for her was still there, and so we got together, and I became a stepdad, and then a year later we had a son together, and we were together for about 9 years. So we ended divorce for about 4.
Oh, okay, cool. So during that time that you were married with her, was there still a lot of pressure for you, or had you kind of just like tried to leave that all in the past?
What kind of pressure?
Like trying to cope with what happened in the past, or had you tried to put it back in the back of your memory, that way you could go on with life? How was that?
Well, for me, and I'm kind of a special case in this instance, that there was so much press involvement from the day one of his arrest, because of the Hollywood ties and everything. It's always been a big story. So for me, I've never had that, that opportunity where it was completely internal. It's always been out there and public. You know what I mean? I had no choice with that. And part of the settlement was that I would attend therapy until I was 18. So from 12 to 18, I went to therapy. You know, and by the time it was like, 16, 17, 18, it had got to like maybe 1 hour long session a month. You know, but when it started, it was like 2 2-hour sessions a week. So I went through 6 years of therapy, and if I learned one thing in therapy, it was to talk about it and to be open about it and not to be ashamed. And, so me coping with it, I didn't have a choice. I had to go to therapy. And so I was, not aware of it at the time, but I was receiving these tools on handling my pain and my grief and all these things that had the possibility of coming into my life, as far as suicidal and promiscuity and all these things that all eventually took place in my life. But I was given tools by my therapist, whether I knew it or not, to deal with it. And for me, it's just always been that I don't, I just go on. I mean, I can't not go on. I have to live, and I have to heal, and I have to, do everything I can as a survivor to help encourage other victims to come forward and become survivors, and to help prevent children from having this happen to them. So it's that's another thing that's kept going in my life. That my job's not done. I still need to do a lot in that way of prevention and making it safer for my kids and their kids. And so, as far as pressure, no. But there's things that I still carry with me today. Like there's things that are dysfunctional in me, like sexually. Like, I can't be touched on a certain part of my back because it'll set me off. Like one of those things where I might get to without even realizing it's like a trigger reaction of this trauma, and there's certain things like that, or memories that I have repressed, will come to the surface, and I have a tendency to get really depressed for no reason. I mean, there's things that you carry with you every day, and anyone that's suffered any kind of abuse or trauma understands that time does not heal anything. It just, as time goes on, you become stronger and better able to deal with your pain or your trauma. And I'm no exception. As the time's gone on, I've spent a lot of time working on myself. In going internally and analyzing and trying to figure out why I would react this way, or why this triggered this behavior. And then to amend those things and to become a better person. I mean, I think that's, in my opinion, is the purpose of all of our lives, is to be better today than we were yesterday. And so I've learned to address any of these issues head on and do everything I can to heal that part of me. And so with my marriage or any of my relationships since. I've definitely had a lot of things come up that, were triggers, and I've just dealt with them accordingly, and I've had a lot of great people, a lot of supportive people that were patient with me and willing to back off and give me the space to heal that part of me that was triggered by, whatever. Like oral sex has always been a big thing for me. Like, I don't really let women do that. And it was something that I would only allow if there's a lot of trust and love or comfort, and so that's something that I've had to work on. Obviously, as I said, I've had a lot of good people that have been patient and caring and willing to help me get over this stuff.
Martine. Is that how you say it? Martine Goldman says says she's proud of you, Nathan.
That's one of my ex-girlfriends from when I was pretty young, actually.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, she's watching. She's watching everything. So,
Awesome.
so yeah, that was what I was trying to find out is, if this trauma hurt you with other relationships. That's why I was trying to.
Most definitely. Most definitely. And what I'm saying by pointing out the fact of my therapy and my recovery being a special case, because most kids either don't tell, so when the pedophile, the victimizer, when the kid reaches the age where they're no longer attracted or interested in that child, they just drop them like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because I was getting close. You know, at 12 years old, I maybe didn't have much, like maybe a year or so left before Victor was going to move on to a younger boy, right? And that's the case for most of these boys or young children out there, is that nobody finds out, nobody asks, and they go unchecked. And so the kid, when they hit that age that's too old for their victimizer, and they're just left high and dry like that, they're left like fucked up. Like, what did I do wrong? And it becomes this whole thing where they carry around feeling like they did something wrong, and they don't get the therapy. They don't get those tools to cope with their trauma, and so they may go on the rest of their lives and have these horrible dysfunctions in their life and not even understand why that dysfunction is there. And so, again, I am a special case in that, where I was given tools. I was taught how to deal with these and what to look for. And so that's another reason that educating yourself and educating your children is so important.
So there was never a time, well, there probably was, but I'm going to go ahead and ask you. So there was never a time that you just wanted to end it all?
Yeah, I was very suicidal. Very suicidal.
And was that because...
The first time I tried to kill myself was I was either 7 or 8.
And that was because of this?
And the abuse at home. Yep.
That's a sad thing that happens nowadays too, because you see it every day where kids cry out for help and their parents don't even know what the hell's going on, and then you find their head blown off or hanging in a bathroom or something like that. The two big things with children today are they feel like they're not loved, so they kill themselves, or they're bullied and they go to schools and stuff and kill people.
Right.
Those are the two big things that happen.
Which again is, like I said, directly ties to the fact that children don't have rights. They don't have a voice.
No.
Which is why when I came forward at 20, it was like they wanted to make me the poster boy. They wanted me to be the face of child molestation prevention, right? And I have no problem with that. I'm willing, always been willing to be that voice for the children, because somebody has to speak out. As it stands, like our pets, animals, in a court of law have more rights than children do. And that is just fucked up.
Why? Let me ask you this: Why didn't you go on like a speaking type tour and like go to schools and try to talk to kids and things like that? Why has that never come up in your life?
Because I just I've been pursuing my life. I mean, I'm a musician. Mm-hmm. I've been writing music since I was 16 and playing guitar, and I've been in bands and because at 12, Coppola literally told me that I would never work in the industry again. Basically, blackballed me at 12. And so I lost all kind of desire to be an actor at that point. I had no interest in wanting to act since then. And then I started writing poetry and then playing music a couple years later. And then that just set off like wildfire. It became this deep passion for me to, I played band. I started playing drums at 3. So music's always been very important. But when I started to write music and stuff, it was like this secret release for any of these emotions that were just swelling inside of me like an ocean. Mm-hmm. All of a sudden, I now had a valve that would release. It was like a pressure valve, being able to write music and perform music. And so, I pursued that most of my 20s, and then, you get caught up working. I've always had to work and work. And so that takes a lot of time when you're working 40 hours a week, 50 hours a week, and then At 28, I went back to California to pursue my music, and instantly hooked up with my now ex-wife, but instantly hooked up with her, became a stepdad overnight, and then we had our son a year later. So for that next 9-year period of my life, I'm a father and a husband, and so I'm a very devout, old-fashioned kind of person, and family means everything to me, and so I wouldn't take away from the family to go to that, basically. And I've had offers throughout from people to do story, or to do books, or and at one point, for one reason or another, I won't compromise my morals,
Mm-hmm.
or do anything that's against what I believe to be right or true, for any amount of money. And so that has prevented me from being in the public, I guess you would say. But really, I mean, the good question. The reason is me. I've been living my life, and anytime something's come up, like now that he's doing GP 3, it's like starting again. It's getting, an overload of friend requests and people talking about me online, and so I'm sure more offers are going to start coming in. And a lot of my life, I could not justify any kind of fame or success from that incident. Like if I was going to go get famous, it would be because of my music or because of my talent, or not because I was molested by Victor.
Yeah.
I didn't want that to be what I was acclaimed for. And so what I've realized now is that it's all directly related. Like my art, my music, my poetry, all of it is directly related to that, because that's such a big part of my life. And that, I'm looking to do an autobiography and to do educational books. And, I'd love to go on a speaking tour. I just don't know where to start.
Yeah.
I really, at this point.
You just got to surround yourself with good people that don't want to screw you over.
Yeah. Yeah.
Everybody.
Those industries that you're talking about.
Everybody wants something from everybody else, but they don't want to do shit for you most of the time. You know what I mean?
I do.
It's like here, I'll give you give me a hamburger today, and I'll pay you 2 hamburgers in 2 weeks. You know what I mean? And you're lucky if you get those 2 hamburgers,
Damn lucky is right. Yeah.
So, you kind of went from the frying pan into a bigger frying pan when you got in the music industry, because that's even worse than the movie industry. As far as cutthroat and.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I mean.
The truth is that I was just, some people have it in them, and I'm one of those people where, I've never had a problem performing. It's in me. I perform, and playing music and writing music is like, that's everything. I mean, if I had my choice,
yeah.
I don't fear any of that cutthroat, because it's all a choice. I mean, there's plenty of musicians, actors, artists out there that are really well known and make a great living, and are not in the gossip magazines or the tabloids, or being picked on per se, like like Britney or Lindsay or any of that.
Mm-hmm.
There's plenty of artists and famous people out there that live private life. It's just about how you present yourself and what you put out there for the public.
Martina, is that your say her name, Martina?
Yeah, Martina. Mm-hmm.
Goldman said, I think a speaking tour and affiliation with a great network would be an amazing journey at some point.
A speaking tour?
Yeah, an affiliation with a great network would be an amazing journey at some point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that would be great. I mean, I don't feel like like I said, this is something that I'm called to, right? It's like a calling. It's an obligation for me to protect innocent to end up with those that can't help themselves.
Yeah.
So, you know, I'd be more than happy to do those things. I don't know where to begin, or who do I call, or, you know, I'm not. I mean, I'm fairly savvy with it here, but like getting online and searching for something, like forget about it. Like I can't do it. You know, there are too many pop-ups, and it's just like I can't sift through all that shit. I'm looking for it. You know what I mean?
So anybody that watches this video later on, because I know there's going to be after views, if you can help Nathan to be able to go on a speaking tour, to talk to kids in schools, or you can help him with something like that, please get a hold of me, and I'll get you in touch with him after I talk to him about it, because I want to make sure that, you know, the person who is coming through is genuine and is really wanting it for Nathan more than themselves, and they want to actually legitimately help him help kids. So if any of you come on here and you watch it, PM me or email me. You can email me at blastzoneEntertainment@yahoo.com, and you know, I'm always welcome anybody that can help him with any of that type of stuff, or with helping with how to do an autobiography, or you know, any kind of help you can give him, because this man here has a lot of courage to do what he's done tonight, and I think a lot more people need to take from what he's doing to do it yourself. So,
Thank you.
Got hair on me. So, Jeepers Creepers 3 is coming out, like you said, and I read a little bit about it before today. It's finished post production, something like that, and you know, we know that's going to be coming out probably in this year or next year. Do you have any plans for what you plan to do, or how can anybody help you in your quest to make sure that people know about this? You know, what can the people who are listening or watching do to help you to get your point across?
I mean, you know, I haven't really gotten that much thought to that. In fact, I mean, really, the main thing is just to talk about it, you know, and to, you know, be at work and be like, oh, I just caught the show last night, or, you know, did you know about the director of Jeepers Creepers 3? You know, I mean, really, that's the best way to do it, is to keep talking about it, and that way the information spread.
Well, I know
because I'm not really, you know, like, again, I'm not very savvy when it comes to networking on the computer either, and you know, like me trying to get my music out there alone is just, you know, it's like everything I can do just to figure out how to, you know, utilize the tools that are there. You know, it's all learning by the seat of my pants kind of thing, and I don't have that much time to spend doing that. You know, so any help like that is always welcome.
Me and my wife were talking today, and we do not plan to go watch the movie. And I've got it on, I think I got Jeepers Creepers on VHS and DVD. And when I find them, I'm going to throw them out, because, you know, I really didn't like the first movie anyway. The second movie was okay, but the first one was total, utter bullshit. It was stupid. But, you know, I plan to not watch any of them or anything anymore. And I will be, you know, proactive in letting people know that, you know, what he's done. And I'll even go to my local theater and let them know, you know?
Yeah.
And let them make their own decision what they want to do as far as playing the movie when it comes out. You know, I think that if we all band together, it might not hurt him a lot, but he'll know that, you know, people know what he's done. You know?
Right. And I think that's really the most important thing, because, you know, he's got the money, he's got the power, he's got the pull now to basically go back if he wants to, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because unfortunately there are a great number of parents out there that, you know, would sell their kid.
Oh, yeah.
You know, So he's got all these opportunities, and so the only real way to stop him from having access to children is by, like I said, this is one of the darkest crimes, okay, known to man. And the more light we shed on crime, the fewer dark spaces there to be for them to hide in. And so, not going to these films, not, financially supporting him is only going to help, the fact that he's not going to have the money to do, to go out there and do whatever he wants to do. I'm not trying to stop him.
Yeah.
That's not my, I'm not trying to stop him from being a filmmaker. I'm just trying to prevent him from having any access whatsoever to another child.
But I mean, it's.
I mean, personally, I wouldn't go to see a pedophile's movie. You know what I'm saying? Personally, I would not be able to morally justify doing that. Other people may not have a problem with it. They like his movie. That's their prerogative. That's them. They're the ones that have to look in the mirror, and they're the ones that have to go to sleep every night.
The thing is, he'll have access to kids no matter what. It doesn't matter if he does a movie or what.
Right, but I can't watch him 24/7.
Yeah, exactly.
Or monitor him.
Yeah.
So the only thing that I can do is what I'm doing. Is to continue to educate and raise awareness.
Do you think that he's
and to tell the truth? Because his lawyers and production companies, PR people, they've always painted it as a one-time inappropriate touching experience, right? Which is far from the truth. So,
do you think he's done it since then?
Let me just say this. The average pedophile has over 200 victims in a lifetime.
Wow.
Yeah.
That many.
That many.
Wow.
The average pedophile has over 200 victims in a lifetime.
And I'm not trying to say this is true, but so there, in no short terms, if he thought that he would get in trouble again, he would even try to get rid of the person. I'd say too.
I'm not afraid. Are you saying would try to silence me?
No, I'm talking about new kids. You know what I mean? I mean, a lot of pedophiles you end up being murderers and things like that too. So, I mean, this guy is a monster. I mean, he is every bit. He's a Jeeper Creeper.
Exactly. That's right. I took the words right out of my mouth. That he is the monster in his films.
Yeah,
Yes.
He's a Jeepers Creepers. I mean, yeah, it's not what the movie's about, but it is in a sense because he's putting himself into that movie as, because it's always dealing with kids. It's always dealing with kids. Like the second one deals with a busload of kids.
Right.
The first one's a brother and sister. So I don't know what the third one's going to be.
Every one of his films has been about to some degree or another about kids.
Yeah, exactly. And I just hope this doesn't happen to any other children. This is one isolated incident that happened with this person, but this stuff happens every day. While we're sitting here talking, it probably happened I don't know how many times to a kid.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
And it's a sad place we live in. We live in a time where people don't care about people anymore. People could care less if, the kid down the road gets raped or the kid down the road gets molested. Our thing is, as long as it don't happen to my family.
Right.
So,
or there's also the aspect, there's families out there that, don't believe their children.
Oh yeah, definitely.
It comes forward and says that this is what's happening, and they go, no, it's not, right? And they completely dismiss it.
Yeah,
especially
when it's a family member.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Especially when it's a family member. A stepdad, a dad, a uncle, an aunt. We're not just saying this happens with men. This happens with women too.
It does.
Women are sexual molesters and rapists too. It's not just It's not just
Right,
men.
as well as little girls are being molested and raped as well and victimized.
Yeah,
You know,
exactly.
just, the thing is with boys, it's more, if you look throughout history, it's always been this way. That the incidents with young boys is the majority. I mean, you look at like, you know, back in the times of like Rome, and it's like they were openly having sex with boys. A lot of, you know, the men in power back in Rome. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's always been the Catholic, right? You have the priest.
Yeah, the priest having sex with boys.
You know what I'm saying? It's like it's so much of it has been revolved around young boys, and that, you know, that's really. But yeah, you're absolutely right. It happens with women all the time, and you know, women are victimizers as well. You know, young girls are victimized.
Yeah.
So, really, the best thing we can do, because it would take, you know, I just don't see a way to like just put a stop to it. You know? So it's an everyday battle. It's an everyday fight to try to you know, just keep winning one Gerard's team. You know, like just try to turn the tide. You know, and make it safer.
Yeah.
Because the more that you know about it, the less likely you are to have it happen.
Where are you in your life right now? Are you in a good place?
I feel like I am. I mean, I struggle a lot, you know, financially, and
we all do that.
I've been going through,
We all do
through serious issues in my life, but all in all, you know, I've learned a lot about myself, about the world we live in, about human nature, and you know, regardless of what I have going on in my life, every day I have an opportunity to have a positive impact on anyone else's life, whether it be a piece of advice, and you know, proving something by an action line. Then, you know, really that's what I strive for. You know, so even though I have issues, because we all have issues, we all have problems that we face, and you know, like you said, we're all struggling financially, most of us, and you know, to me, that's like we're superficial, you know,
Yeah.
and really being happy and being content should be something that you feel regardless of whether you have the issues or regardless of whether you have money, you know, because that's something that comes from within, and I feel like most of the time I'm there. I'm happy to be here, and I'm happy to, you know, share anything I can learn with anyone else, and I'm always constantly looking to learn something new. So,
where's your family in all this now? Has your family healed, or
family, or
no? Is your family healed from all this now, or?
I mean, everybody deals with their things. So, as far as that goes, I can't really speak for anybody else. I mean, I believe that, you know, through time they've learned to deal with it and learned to, you know, get through it, and having support is another big part of it, and people that are willing to listen and be patient and understand. You know, those are all important things. So, you know, I'm sure that there's still issues that the parents have with trust. There's issues that my parents, you know, like we're all affected by it. You know, everyone in my family, my cousins, my auntie, you know, my aunts, uncles, all of us have been affected by it one way or another, and you know, each one of us has had to learn to cope with that on their own, and you know, take on those dysfunction, those problems on their own, and you know, so I believe that, yeah, I'm sure there's still things, but all in all, it's not like you know, we have this broken family or something.
Yeah.
You know, it's not like that.
Are you living in California still?
No. In Washington State.
Washington State. Okay. So, I appreciate you talking to us, and you know, talking about all this tonight, and you know, I want people to hear your music sometime. So, you know, maybe another night we can get together, and instead of talking about all this, you can come on and play some music, and you know, kind of tell people some stories about your music and where the song came from, and you know, things like that. Kind of like
I'd
a
love to.
storyteller, kind of like a storyteller type thing.
I've always said that that'd be a perfect show for me because I love to talk about music.
So, I appreciate you talking to me, and I appreciate you picked me out of a lot of other people to talk to, because I know you probably got bombarded with a bunch of people wanting to talk to you.
You're a good dude, Mike. I'm glad to do it. I'm glad to have the opportunity, and I want to thank you as well.
And is there anything else that you want to talk about before we go? I mean, do you think we covered it all, or what's the last thing that you want to say?
Don't give up the good fight.
All right.
You know, really what it is. It's like I said, it's an everyday battle. To do what's right and to help others. And so, don't be afraid to talk about it. Don't be ashamed, and just don't give up the good fight. I mean, that's really what it comes down to.
All right. Well, you hold on just a second, okay?
All right, buddy.
Nathan, Forrest Winters. Everybody, again, if you watch this video and you can help out in any way, get a hold of me and I'll get a hold of him, let him know what's going on with you. I'll be back at, I know it's crazy, but I'll be back at 1 a.m. my time, and I'll be doing a show with David Sterling like I did last week, and we'll both be doing our lives together. So I'll be back at 1 a.m. Eastern time.